can you tell us a little bit more about what resilience means, as we do hear a lot about it lately?
Thanks, Siobhán. Yes, resilience can be defined as the ability to cope or bounce back from a difficult situation. So whether I'm working with a parent or a child, I'm very much focused on that idea of bouncing back. While as parents, we always want to protect our children from having any negative experience, any negative challenges. However, unfortunately, in life, it doesn't always happen that way, and some situations are just completely unavoidable. So just like COVID-19, the closure of schools, the death of a loved one, maybe your child falling out with a friend, or maybe struggling to find friends or fit into a new school. Some things in life are just completely unavoidable. And you'll notice if your child or your teenager is more stressed or anxious, it might manifest itself in certain behaviors. So maybe getting frustrated, getting angry with you or with the extended family, or maybe being more emotional, more frustrated and crying more easily. And I suppose when we think about resilience, it means finding ways to manage these feelings and to help cope, get through this. The good thing about resilience is we can build it at any stage of our life. So whether we're an adult or a child, there's lots of things we can do to build those skills. And it's important as well for children to learn at a young age that there are things they can do to help themselves. Because if children were completely 100% protected from everything in life, they wouldn't get the chance and opportunity in a safe way to build up their resilience. Resilience, I suppose for us in the ISPCC, we focus on three main aspects of resilience. We focus on self-worth, which we call the I am, the self-regulation, so managing and coping with very strong feelings, the I can, and then finally, a young person's social support, who they have around them, their friends, their family, their teachers, their community around them. But I suppose before we can even start to look at strengthening a teenager or child's resilience, it's so important firstly that we start with the parents to make sure they're supporting their own resilience and looking after themselves.
Okay, and I think that's quite a key point that you said there, Sinead, and something that we really want to highlight in tonight's webinar. Looking after yourself as a parent first. Can you tell us a little bit more about why this is so important and how this actually helps us then strengthen resilience in our children?
Yeah, so in my work every day, I see how parents and carers dedicate so much of their time, their physical energy, and also their emotional energy to their children. And for us in the ISPCC, we feel it's really important for parents to look after their own well-being. It's such a demanding job, and we feel that when parents can create a bit of time for their own well-being, you know, and I'm not just talking about their physical health, I'm talking about social health, emotional health, mental health. When they invest in their well-being, it helps them cope with any of the stresses a little bit easier. And I suppose this webinar will look very closely at boosting your child's capacity to cope. However, a foundation and a positive starting point is to make sure that you're in a good place, because your child, your teenager will turn to you to be that calm, I suppose, steady person. If they're going through a tough time, they want a steady, calm person in their life. And it's important that parents carve out a bit of time in their schedule to do that. And the analogy I use is you can't fill from an empty cup. Or another one is like, it's like you're driving a car without the petrol. Or if you're on an airplane, you know, the captain always says, look, should the cabin experience or the safety message is around putting the oxygen mask on yourself first and then your child. So it's vital that parents look after themselves so that they have the extra energy and patience to help a child when they're I suppose really struggling. And I suppose I've had to, I suppose, challenge parents through the years, because sometimes they would say to me, I would feel so guilty if I took a time out. And they tell me, you know, they've dedicated years and years and years looking after their children and other people. You know, sometimes they're looking after elderly parents as well. But when I explore with them the possible benefits and the possible rewards, and when they try it out, take a bit of time out each week, they come back to me and saying that they do feel a little bit recharged and a little bit revitalized to help in the parenting role. And we also feel that's a really important part of the resilience is making sure that you have the social supports around you, that you have people to chat to. Doesn't necessarily have to be professional, but just, you know, people you can chat about and feel open, and that you're not going to feel judged. That is a huge part, I would say, for parents to find maybe other parents who know what it's like, and who are there and supportive in every way.
Okay, great. And I think that's a really important point, and even as a parent myself, just by having someone that you can talk to and have that chat and time out to yourself. You mentioned there,
Yeah.
Sinead, that we can all be guilty of not taking time out for ourselves as parents, and you know, I would be a culprit on this as well. What happens when we don't take the time to look after ourselves and our own well-being? Because I think as a parent, we automatically just think of putting our kids' needs and everything first, at the foremost. So if we don't look after ourselves, can you tell us a little bit more about what might happen?
Yeah, so myself and my colleague in the ISPCC have just finished an online parenting course. We finished up last week. And one of the biggest, I suppose, feedback or learnings for parents were they realized that they had been, I suppose, living in a state of constantly, I suppose, living in toxic stress, which is very harmful, not just for our physical health, but also for our mental health. And it was only really when parents took a step back and reflected, they realized that they weren't feeling supported, they weren't feeling resourced. And for some people, they've, I suppose, gone away now, and they're trying to action, you know, working on their well-being, because they know it can have really serious implications for their mental health.
Okay, and you mentioned there about the toxic stress and that, Sinead, and parents' mental health. Here in the ISPCC, the window of tolerance is something that we use a lot in our daily work with children and parents, and it can be a really good tool to help us self-regulate. But for many people here tonight, they're not going to know what the window of tolerance is, or how to look out for it or use it. Can you tell us maybe how this tool can be helpful to parents?
Yeah, I suppose the way I think of the window of tolerance is, if you're in your window of tolerance, you're in your comfort zone. You're functioning at your best and you're calm. And when we're within our comfort zone, in our window of tolerance, we feel we can cope with the pressures and challenges of parenting. And I suppose everyone is different. So my window of tolerance will be different to yours, Siobhán. And it also, it's different in different times of our life. So for example, in 2020, as I say, we're parenting through a pandemic. And for a lot of us this year, we're parenting from work. We're not working from home, we're parenting from work. So the stress and the trauma of COVID-19 is creating a narrower window. So it means we can't cope with the same things as we used to. And I think a big thing for parents, and I see this myself, for me and my family, is, you know, not being able to see your mum or dad or grandparents can leave us feeling isolated. So we also see that for many parents here tonight, if you are working from home, you don't have that social connection. And I certainly miss, you know, having the chat in the morning, having a cup of tea. That social connection is gone. And I know that we're connecting online, and that's great, but the physical connection with other people can really help build our tolerance. And what happens for us, if we're feeling overwhelmed, you know, we can go into the higher state of hyperarousal, which is the fight or flight response. And I know we'll be showing a video later on this, because it's interesting to observe it in our children as well, which way they go. So a lot of children will go into that hyper state, where they're angry, where they're frustrated, where they're really anxious. Or they can go down below, where where they're feeling withdrawn, numb. So that's called the hypo. So the hyper and the hypo, and they're isolating themselves. A lot of parents tell me, their son or daughter might spend a lot of time in their room, don't want to interact with other people. So for us as parents, we can, within one day alone, we can go up to the hyper or down to the hypo. It's fluid. It can be moving all the time. And the big thing about the window of tolerance is just being mindful of it and being aware, saying to yourself, oh, I feel myself now going out of my window. What can I do to bring myself back? So we would say that for yourself is to learn. If you're more aware of your window tolerance, it'll help you deal with any kind of challenges at home. And it's also helpful to observe your child, because you can see what the triggers are that move them up or down, and you can help them get back into their window. But the one thing I would say to parents here tonight is it's very, very difficult for you to help regulate your child if you are not in your window. If they're gone up and you've gone down, it's very hard to do that. So it's important that you get in your window first before you can help them.
Okay, thanks, Sinead. And I think that's a really key point, as you said, to be aware and be in your own window of tolerance before trying to look at your child's. It's like, reacting from when you're feeling really angry and frustrating, and then reacting from that, rather than taking that time out and calming down, and then reacting from a calm level. I appreciate there's a lot kind of in the window of tolerance, and it may be new to a lot of people here tonight. And as Sinead mentioned, we will show a short little video in a little while, so hopefully that will also give you another understanding of it. So just moving on then, just in relation to, I suppose, how, small changes can positively impact on parents' well-being. Sinead, I know when me and you were talking there recently, you were talking of an example of a parent that you worked with, and how a small change that they made really impacted on them in a really positive way. Would you be able to share that here tonight with everybody?
Yeah, and I don't know, do these pie charts do it justice, but basically, in the first scenario on the left, this mom I worked with just told me about getting her kids up for school early. They were in primary age school, so she had to help them with the lunches, get them dressed. And she said mornings were really busy, and she'd be racing up to the school gates. She'd be halfway up and she'd be saying, "Geez, I forgot his lunch," or "Geez, I forgot the homework and I have to go back and drop it up to the school." And she said by the time she got to the school gates, she was just really, really stressed, and she was quite isolated as a mom. And she realized that by the time she got to the school gates, she was so stressed. She didn't really want to have that chit chat with the other mums and dads at the school gate. So she used to just go home and get on with her school day, which was a very busy day, doing the housework, doing the shopping, going back to do the school run, getting the kids back home, doing the homework, dinner, and bed, and then it all starts again. So what she decided, and this came from her, this was her idea. She said, "You know what, Sinead, I'm going to get up half an hour early every morning. I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to do a bit of the prep before the children wake." So it was only working out, I think, at 2% of her whole day. And she said it was an absolute game changer. She said mornings were so much more relaxed. It just created such a nice, she was in better form for the kids. That old, feelings of feeling frazzled and overwhelmed, she was up in that hyper state originally, but it brought her back down to her own window of tolerance. And you know what, she connected more with other parents at school. She was telling me she was quite a shy person, but she started just connecting more with other mums and dads at the school gate, and it just made her day go a lot more smoother. And this was just one small change in her day, but it actually was, the rewards for herself and the benefits were huge, but also for her children. Another small thing she did, it sounds small, but it's actually huge, was just making a to-do list. She'd never done one anymore, and she said she was walking around every day trying to remember which appointment was happening. So like parents, would often come to me with their ideas around well-being, and whether it's going for a walk, whether it's, I don't know, going for a run, whether it's trying to have a coffee. I know we can't meet face to face as much as normal, but like meeting a friend for coffee outside or something. It doesn't have to be running a marathon or doing a triathlon or signing up to do an Ironman. It doesn't have to be something huge. It can be just something small. And there's I think 168 hours in the whole week. So just taking 1 hour of that for you could have huge benefits.
And exactly, as you said, Sinead, it doesn't need to be anything massive or big. And even as you said, it's a small thing, but actually it is so big and makes such a change. What stood out to me just there when you said it, it was only the change that parent made. It was only 2% of her day, but yet the impact was so much greater than that. So it's just something for us all to be mindful of. We can take that couple of minutes every day to do something, as you said, that we want to do, or that we like to do, that will give us our own time and our own space.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, Siobhán, I think we're going to move on to you. I think you're going to chat a bit more around building your child's resilience. And I mentioned earlier that the 3 building blocks we work from in the ISPCC, the self-worth, the self-regulation, and the social support. Would you mind explaining a little bit more to the participants here tonight so that they can be a bit more aware of how they can strengthen their child's resilience?
Yeah, so as you said there, Sinead, it's the 3 building blocks to resilience are the self-esteem, self-worth, your self-regulation, and your social support. And here in the ISPCC, how we remember these is the building blocks of the I am, I can, I have. And this is the Eden-Grottenberg model. So when we refer to the I am, that's in relation to self-esteem and self-worth. The I can focuses on the self-regulation. How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your feelings? And the I have is in relation to our social network, our social supports. So I'll go through all of these individually. So looking at the first one, we're looking at maybe your child's self-esteem and their self-worth. So how do they see themselves? So I suppose when I'm talking through this, maybe just have your child in mind. We look at it as the I am. So what are the positive qualities that they can talk about within themselves? So I am a loved person. I'm a person who can deal with things that happen. I'm glad to do nice things for others and show that I care, or I am willing to be responsible for what I do. So think are these kind of things that your child can say about themselves. In relation to the self-regulation, this looks at how does your child recognize their feelings and how do they handle them? So what can they do to better manage a problem? So what's in their control, what's out of their control? So are they able to say, I can control what to do. I can control when I feel like doing something that's not right or that is right. I can find somebody to help me when I need it. I can figure out when it's a good time to talk to someone. I can find a time when it's a good time to take action. Then the third one is in relation to the I have. And this is around the social supports that your child has. And I know you mentioned them at the very beginning as well, Sinead, not just for children, but also for parents and carers. So who are the trusted people in your child's circle? Who do they turn to? Who do they have in their life that they can talk to if they need to? So this could be someone, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it can be the Childline service. Who can they talk to about their feelings and help them to cope? So they might be able to say, I have people around me who I trust and who love me and who will show me how to do things that are right. I have people to help me how to do things on my own. And I have people in my life who help me when I'm sick or in trouble or if I need them. So in relation to all of these, if your child can't put all of these 3 statements into action, but they can do 1 or 2, then that's fantastic. I suppose it's about your child recognizing these about themselves and with your support to do so, as they may not necessarily understand how it runs and how it works. And the good thing about dealing with change and about challenges in this way is that it can really help children to bounce back.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, that these 3 building blocks, they really can be used for any challenges in life, whether trying to make friends, moving school, whether it's being out of school for COVID-19, getting through any challenges, it really doesn't matter that you can bring back the focus to these three key areas. So that's why I guess I love it so much as well. It can be applied to lots of things. Siobhán, I think you're going to give parents just a snapshot of how they can practically implement this to strengthen their child's resilience.
Yeah, and exactly as you said there as well, Sinead, just in relation to it can be applied to absolutely anything. And I suppose that's the key to, strengthening resilience. And you mentioned earlier on as well, it could be, a bereavement, a fallout with a friend, COVID-19, worried or anxious about not being invited to the birthday party, being picked for the soccer team. It's really generic and it can be used in any circumstance. And you really want to kind of build up your child's self-esteem and self-worth and who they can talk to and who's there to help them and support them. So just to kind of practically, how can you implement this and what can you do? I suppose some of the things that you can do to help strengthen your child's resilience is, and when I talk about these are probably things that you're already doing as parents and carers, and it's probably just a reminder again to encourage you to continue doing what you are doing. So there may be nothing new here. It's about teaching your child to be happy. So building their self-esteem and their confidence. So it's encouraging your child to do things for themselves. Now, I know at times it might be so much easier for you to do it yourselves, but by letting them do it is giving them independence and it's helping them build their self-esteem. So it's like, let them take responsibility for different tasks or different chores. So it might be for the younger child, it might be around, packing their lunch the night before, getting it ready, getting the uniform ready. For that older teenager, it might be in relation to, helping out with the cooking and going to the shop to get groceries. It might be picking up their sibling from a friend's house or that. So it's encouraging them to be confident in themselves. And then help your child identify the things that they're good at, their talents. So encourage and support them with these, and recognize that, maybe at home they might be doing something where they're helping out, and it's noticing that and saying, you're doing really well helping me at home to, get rid of all the old clothes and put them into a bag for charity. Maybe this is something that you could do when you're in school and within the art class or whatever it is, you're really good at doing helping out at home. I can see that you can be really good at helping out in school. It could be that they're constantly fighting with their sibling and fighting away and punching each other in that and going, look, obviously it's not nice to be doing that to your brother or your sister, but you've got really good tackles, and I think that'd be really good on the football pitch or the rugby pitch or whatever. So it's just identifying their talents and supporting them with it. It's about seeing the best in your child and praising and encouraging them. So notice when your child is maybe trying to change a negative behavior and praise them. Don't focus on the overall outcome you want to change, but instead focus on the steps that your child has already taken in the efforts to achieve what it is they want to achieve. They don't need to have the task completed before you praise them. So it might be, you're on your teenager's back for cleaning out the bedroom. There's mugs, there's cups, there's dirty washing everywhere. They might have brought down one mug, but there might be another 2 up there, or they brought down 2 jumpers for the wash, and there might be another 10 up there. Recognize what they have done, that they brought down the 1 or the 2 or whatever it is, and that encourages them then to continue to bring down the rest of them. Highlight the positives more to your child. So if they haven't done something, start with something positive before pointing out what it is that they haven't done. So if you think of an example yourself, maybe as a parent, as a carer, where you've been in a situation, be it in work or with friends, or you're doing something, you're organizing something, or you have to do certain documents and work. If someone turns around to you and starts off with saying, where is X, Y, and Z that you're meant to have for me? You automatically kind of get your back up and kind of go, hold on a second, I'm after doing a load, and this is the response I'm getting. So it's about starting with the positive first. So it's like, oh, look, that's great. Thank you so much. I got all those documents that you sent on. I am missing one more. Could you send that on to me? It's just about how you word things. You're still getting the same message across, but just wording it differently. And your reaction from your child will be different each way you talk to them. As individuals, at times we tend to focus more on negatives rather than the positives. We sometimes only see what we didn't do. So maybe in your house, you might have certain routines when you come in from school. It might be that you have to take off your uniform, put away the lunchbox, get a snack, whatever it is, go and do the homework, wherever that may be, in the kitchen, upstairs, in the bedroom. Your child might have done everything bar maybe put away their lunchbox. And sometimes that's the one thing we focus in on and start asking them, why didn't you do it? Or where is it? Rather than maybe starting off with, oh, great, I see you've changed out your uniform and you got your snack and you're sitting down to do the homework. That's brilliant. But you forgot to take the lunchbox out. So again, it's just same point that we're making, but obviously just in a different way. And again, as I said, these are things you're probably already doing. It's just a reminder to help you as well. When we're praising and encouraging our child, there's a few different ways, key points that help when we're doing it. It's about being clear. So giving your child your full attention. So no distractions, no mobile phones, no TV on the background or chatting to somebody else. It's also about being specific. So let them know exactly what it is that you're praising them for. So you could have said, okay, that's great. You had a really good day today. That could mean absolutely anything. And during the day, they could have been great. They could have, gone to the shop for you. They could have brought their sibling home from school for you. But they also could have gone out with their friends and never bothered telling you where they were going or didn't come back when they were meant to. So it's about being specific and let them know what it was that they did that day that was good. And it's also around being personal. So letting them know what it means to you. So it could be like, oh, thank you for, posting that letter on the way to school for me. I really appreciate it. It meant I didn't have to go out or to do that. And then what we call double. So what that means is involving other people. So it might be involving maybe a teacher or another family member, making sure that you're praising them in front of this other person. I know at the moment it's a lot harder. We're not socially interacting with people, but it could be something over the phone that you might be on the phone to an aunt or to their grandmother. Or it could be a message in a group family text as well. So we find ways to do that. Encouragement is a far more effective way to help your child learn and grow and focus on what is going well. Now, I must say, out of all of them, it can be hard and it can be difficult to always try and start things with the positives rather than the negatives, but it really does pay off. Also, the other thing for ourselves, and it kind of falls into us and as role models in our well-being, we have to be so mindful of how we address ourselves. So, for example, if I forget to put the bins out, I might make a comment and just turn around and go, oh God, I'm after forgetting to put the bins out. I am so stupid. This is what your child hears. So what they are hearing is that actually when mom forgets to do something, she's stupid. So maybe if they forget to do something in school or in any of the groups that they might be in or something that they're with their friends, they're internalizing that going, oh, am I stupid because I forgot that? So it's about being kind to ourselves as well. Encouraging helpfulness creates independence. By giving everyone maybe a job in the house or encourages inclusivity, and it can make children feel really good about themselves and really promote positive feelings that they are important. These chores can be anything from small little things to, setting the table to hanging out the washing, depending on what age your child is. Every child can have a chore. I worked with a mum who had children from toddler age the whole way up to 17. And when we were talking about this, she turned around and said, God, I've never given any of my kids a job or a chore to do. And we explored this a little bit more and we chatted more about it. And she turned around to me and she said that, God, I'm a skivvy to my kids and that's how they see me, that I do everything for them. She decided to make that change and give them all a chore and a task. And the positive outcome that she got was so much better. Her kids started to do more. They became more happier and independent, that they were able to do things for themselves. Helping your child understand their emotions is also a really important one. So it's about encouraging your child to talk about how they're feeling. If we do this regularly, it's easier for a child then to open up and talk about how they feel. Now, I know you're probably thinking there, any mums of teenagers, that this is so hard. They won't talk. You barely get you might get the grunt of the yeah, no, when you ask them how their day is. But it's about finding a time and space when you feel is appropriate and when you feel when you will get their attention and be able to talk to you. So, sometimes it might be in the car. And that's something I found prior to working within ISPCC. I would have worked with children in residential care, and the car was a great space for them to be able to open up and talk. It might be when you're out shopping with them, so you'll know your child the best. So it's about getting that the best time when they'll open up and chat about what it is that may be just about their day in general, and then the day when there is something on their mind, it'll be easier for them to come and talk to you. When your child maybe experiences a difficult time, encourage them to talk about what happened and help them learn from their experiences. And like that, if it's something that's continuous, it becomes easier for them then over time to be able to talk about it. Some younger kids might find it very hard to verbalize why they're feeling a certain way. So sometimes we might have to name these feelings for them and help them by maybe identifying 4 simple emotions of happy, sad, afraid, or angry, and help them reflect on what these are.
Yeah.
And some kids might feel more comfortable drawing it or writing it down, whatever it is. And as I said, then with the teenagers, it might be finding that space where they feel comfortable and being out of the house to do it.
And Siobhán, I've had a few parents tell me for the teenagers, it's maybe they're watching a movie as a family, and you know, like a scenario might come up through the movie, and parents kind of explore, well, what do you think of what's happening there, and how do you think that young person is feeling, and what would you do if you're in that situation? You know, sometimes when, you know, the focus isn't directly on the child, when it's kind of, you know, what would you do if your friend was experiencing that? How could they help themselves? It kind of the teenagers are very self-conscious to talk about themselves and their own feelings, so anything you could do to kind of take the focus off. When you were speaking there about the praise and encouragement, it reminded me of a foster parents I'm working with at the moment, and they we were doing this session around praise and encouragement, so they decided as an experiment to really just focus on loads of praise and encouragement around making the beds in the morning. And they said they couldn't believe it. They didn't have to give it reminders anymore. They were making such a kind of a big deal of it that it just kind of became automatic for the 2 foster children to just do it. And it was just, they decided after the parenting course one night to just try it as an experiment, and it worked really successfully. And I think sometimes as well, when you're talking there about praise and encouragement, sometimes when things are difficult, so for example, you know, if your child is very anxious or there's stressors in the you know, things stressing the family, sometimes we can miss those exceptions of when a child does something really well, or you know, we're so focused on the other issues that we can miss, and so it is important to notice the baby steps and small progression, because those will build. Whatever we give our attention to will hopefully build and build and build.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's the baby steps, and by having implementing all them, when the big thing hits, as we say, a big thing, it might be that your child is moving school or going from 6th class to 1st year. You know, there's the bereavement, loss of friend. If we've already started to instill these building blocks of resilience, it helps to kind of deal with that change a little bit more easier when the time comes.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
So I think we're going to share our video now.
Yes, hopefully if we can share it, so bear with us.
So this video is, it's actually our colleagues in the Wicklow office share this with any parents and children they're working with, and it just really reinforces the whole I suppose tool of the window of tolerance. So it's only a couple of minutes long, so hopefully you'll get some benefit from it. And just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, they can use the chat function, and they can send the questions to Louise Lunny. So Louise is our MC tonight. And if you have any questions at all, anything's coming up for you.
And I know some people would have already asked some questions at registration, so hopefully we'll have addressed some of them throughout the webinar this evening. And like that, if not, pop a question in, or we'll be giving you contact details of how you can get in touch with us as well. So if you feel you'd actually like a little bit more further support, or just want to just not do it in this forum, that's absolutely fine. You can do that as well.
And we'll be sending an email pack in the coming days as well with lots of hints and tips and further resources. So hopefully that will be of help.
Okay. So we might be having a little bit of difficulty sharing the video. Are we able to share it, Aoife?
Should we move on and we can come back to it if...
Yeah, we can, yeah, and we can show it at the end. And if anything happens that we're not able to, we will, within the pack that Sinead spoke about, we'll give the link to it so you can go in and have a view of it yourself as well. But if you get it in the meantime, you can let us know and we can put it up. Okay.
Oh,
sorry, I have it now.
Okay, oh, great. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Aoife.
So that hopefully will have given people more details around the tool there. And also, as I was watching it, I was thinking about Dr. Bruce Perry. So parents, we might be interested in his work around the 3 R's. So first we must regulate, then relate, and then reason. And we can add that into the parenting pack. I think what happens sometimes is that parents jump first to reasoning with a child, you know, getting them to think, okay, what happened there? What can we do better next time? But they're not ready to do the thinking part because they're so hyper or so hypo. So the first thing we need to do is regulate them and calm them down. And that might take half an hour, that might take 6 hours, depending on the child and the situation. So the 3 R's, we can add that into the pack. The first one is regulate, then it's relate. That's where you're connecting with your child around the feelings part. You seemed really angry, you seemed really upset. And then finally the reasoning, reflecting and learning around what happened and what can we do to prevent the child feeling that distressed again. So I think, Siobhán, you're going to chat to us a little bit more around further techniques to help your child regulate.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you made there in relation to the 3 R's as well. And the first thing is about, helping your child regulate themselves first before getting into that discussion around what happened, what went wrong. So I'm just going to go through a few techniques that might be useful that you can use at home with your own child to help regulate them. And this can be something also as parents, as adults, that we can do ourselves, and it can help us when we need to get back into our window of tolerance. These techniques can be done absolutely anywhere. So they could be done at your desk, in work for adults, in school for kids. It can be, done in the sitting room. It can be done in the back garden. So they're just a few simple techniques, and probably ones that you might be familiar with or you might have known. But it's so important that we regulate our children first before getting into looking at how we can deal with the situation that it is that they're in. So the first thing is around breathing techniques, and I'm sure everyone here is very familiar with different types of breathing techniques. Breathing is really important, especially if your child is really worried or really anxious. It's to get them to focus on their breathing. So when you're calm and relaxed, your body is in rest and digest mode. You breathe normally and your heart rate is lower and your muscles are relaxed. However, when stress or anxiety or anger occurs, your body automatically switches into the flight, fight, or freeze mode that we just heard about, and your muscles tense up and your heart rate increases and your breathing becomes shallower. Taking deep breaths instead of shallow breaths is one way to tell your body to get back to resting and digesting, and that's why deep breathing is so important. So examples of breathing techniques would include, and these are things that you can do with your child. So breathe in like you're smelling a flower, and then breathe out like you're blowing out birthday candles. Another one is pretend your belly is a balloon. So breathe in and make the balloon as big as you can, and then breathe out and make the balloon shrink. So these can be made fun to do with kids. Another one which I think is really lovely is grounding techniques. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. So it's about going through each of your 5 senses and identifying 5 things that you can see, 4 that you can touch, 3 that you can hear, 2 you can smell, and then 1 that you can taste. It's a good way of getting that distraction and calming down yourself or a child. And don't worry, these are going to be in the pack as well, so you'll have them. Another one is the butterfly hug. And the butterfly hug helps to regulate the nervous system. So it begins by putting your hands like a butterfly and placing them on your chest. So while you're taking deep, calming breaths, tap one hand and then the other on your chest and repeat. So it's like this has been used with lots of families, I think, that we work with, and lots of children. And it just, one particular family I'm thinking of, it's the positive it had on the child. It really calmed them down by just doing something so simple and something so easy, and it really got them to a place where they were able to calm down, relax, and then talk about what it was that was going on for them. Imagery then is another really good tool. So it's around closing your eyes and imagining yourself somewhere peaceful, happy, enjoyable, somewhere that makes you feel really relaxed and really happy. And to focus on what that image is and start to build the detail. And for a short time, imagine that you're there and breathe deeply and slowly as you do. And this again will bring you into the calming effect. Then for further information on some mindful tools, there is the Mindful Nats app, and it's designed to teach young people simple mindfulness and relaxation skills, and it's free to download from the App Store and Google Play as well. So it might be one worth looking into if you feel that's something you might like to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah. Siobhán, I was just going to jump in there and,
Yeah.
and say one or two things just with a few of my clients.
Yeah.
One thing I get them to do is to create a calming mantra. So whether I'm working with a parent or with the child, I always get them to think of one phrase, a short phrase that helps them in very difficult or anxious situations. So if it's a child I'm working with, I get them to think, let's say it's anxiety about school, a test or something, you know, their calming mantra might be, I can do this. And
Okay.
I might get them to color it, put it by their bed, maybe laminate it and put it in their pocket going into school, have it in their pencil case, have a few little reminders. The other thing I do around the breathing is, and this works with younger kids, is I get them to pick maybe their favorite color, and then I get them to imagine a cloud of that color. So say it's pink, I get them to imagine they're breathing in the pink cloud and they're breathing it down again. And I suppose everything we're trying to do is to bring them back to the present moment, because for lots of families we work with, maybe their minds are racing ahead, or else they're in the past. They're focused on what happened last week. So it's about bringing them back into that moment. And another thing I do, that can be really helpful, is particularly for children who are quite anxious, is getting them to challenge the anxious thoughts. So asking them, okay, when I get an anxious thought, is this helping me or harming me? And 99.9% of the time these thoughts are harmful, you know, they're not doing anything positive for the child. And then the second thing is it realistic? These anxious thoughts they're getting, is it realistic? Especially if you've a child who has catastrophic thinking, you know, they're thinking that everything is going to go wrong. So they're just from my side a few things that I do with some clients.
Yeah, and just as you mentioned that around the harmful thinking and how realistic it is. I would have worked with a teenage boy, and school refusal. He wasn't able to go into school because of his anxieties and of his worries. And we broke it down into looking at what is it that he felt he was anxious, he was worried about going into school. And we looked at it from the moment he woke up that morning and went through his whole day, where those anxious thoughts and worries were coming. And we challenged them to, how you said there, Sinead, and how realistic were those thoughts that they were going to happen? How realistic did he feel that they would? And when we sat down and we did this, and obviously this was over time, it wasn't just in one meeting or in one session, you know, he realized that they were not realistic thoughts. And we looked at, you know, coping skills and how he could change those thoughts and how he could move on. But it's so important exactly to kind of look at how realistic they are to help you when you're feeling anxious and that. But the important part with all of that is to get to a place where you're calm and you're in your window of tolerance, that we can do that rather than trying to jump in and solve the what's going on. Absolutely. Beforehand. Okay.
So I think we're going to hand over to Aoife.
That's right. Yeah.
Aoife Griffin is the regional manager of the ISPCC in Cork. So I think Aoife is going to, before we get to the questions, I think Aoife is going to talk a little bit more about the supports available to parents here.
Thanks, guys. And I was the person in charge of all the technical stuff tonight, and my toddler decided to make an entrance there just as I was doing the video. So it really struck me what Sinead said about I'm literally parenting from work tonight for sure. And I suppose I was struck then that also there are parents on here who, you know, are working from home since COVID, but also who work at home, like who, you know, who are at home every day with their kids, and, you know, you've jobs to get done and things to do outside of spending time with kids. You know, there's washes to be done and things like that. And it just struck me as well that we're all working from home in some shape or form, and to mind ourselves within that. And I suppose with that in mind, I just want to tell you a little bit about the supports that we have in the ISPCC. And first and foremost is our support line, and that's available from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. And it's there for any parent or guardian or carer of a child or grandparent or concerned person who wants to talk through an issue they might be having with a child, or a concern that they might be having. We will listen, we're not non-judgmental, there to just really help you and support you through that time. You can ring for any reason. It could be that you're worried about your child, maybe you think there might be a diagnosis, you're worried about them being bullied in school, or how they're getting on in school, or if they're struggling in some way, they've become withdrawn, or they've started acting out and you're not sure where to go about it. You know, a good place to start is to phone one of our staff members who'll happily talk to you about any issue that you might be having. We also have Childline, of course, and many of you will be familiar with Childline. It is for children up to the age of 18. It's non-judgmental. It's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And as well as the phone line, we have text and we have the online support. And in our Childline website, we have a number of articles and information for children and young people as well, as we do on our own website, www.ISPCC.ie. We have lots of articles for parents on resilience, as Siobhán and Sinead were talking about tonight, but also a myriad of other issues as well. So we would encourage you to seek out support and to talk to somebody, even if it is a friend, or even if you feel, you know, maybe that's not where you want to go right now. You know, the support line is a great it's a great service being offered by the ISPCC. And I suppose just because this is hosted tonight by TUSLA, our Child and Family Support Network in North Cork, we do have a service that operates in the North Cork area. It's our one-to-one Childline therapeutic support service. And we work with children and young people, again, up to the age of 18 for a period of 6 months on those 3 outcome areas that Sinead went through: I can, I am, I have. So if you know a child, or if you have a child who you think might benefit from our service, please get in touch with us in the Cork office as well. Just want to thank Siobhán and Sinead and Christine and Louise for tonight. And I know they're going to talk to you another little bit again, but and you know, especially the support of TUSLA. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So I want to acknowledge them tonight and all the work that Siobhán, Sinead and Louise put into tonight's presentation.
Thanks, Aoife.
I think we're going to check in with Louise. There may have been a few questions.
Yeah, I just have a few questions here. And we got some questions at registration regarding anxiety and strategies around anxiety, and I hope we covered them. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us afterwards. I've just got 2 questions here that people have sent in. The first one is, do you have any advice for a child that is unhappy in secondary school and finding it hard to make friends?
The first thing I would say around the making friends, well, first of all, the research shows that key for a child to feel settled in secondary school, it isn't the academic side, it's absolutely the social world and a child feeling like that they can make friends. What I normally do when I work with a child who is struggling in this area is I first of all work with the child to think about what do they want from a friendship. So what kind of friend would they want? What are the qualities they look for in a friendship? And then I look at what are the qualities they feel they can bring to a friendship. So are they caring? Are they non-judgmental? Are they good at listening? Are they good at sharing? Can they give a compliment? So the focus is really on the friendship skills, because I think it can be quite overwhelming, you know, for a young person to think, okay, I have to make 5 new friends by the end of first year. What is maybe easier to get their head around is maybe just practicing the friendship skills. So saying hello to someone new, or asking someone to join in a game, or giving someone a compliment if someone does well in an exam, you know, saying well done. So that's what I'd kind of say. And if there is a concern around self-esteem or confidence, it's again, as Siobhán was talking about, looking at the positives. I think this year has been really hard for children who normally engage in after school activities, because those can really boost a young person's self-concept and self-esteem. But if there's anything outside of school that parents, you know, feel might boost the self-confidence, to try and explore that, because anything at all outside of school that's building confidence will complement what's happening in school. So they're I suppose the 2 things that I'm thinking of is, number 1, focus on the friendship skills. Can they practice them? And then looking at extracurricular activities. And I suppose the 3rd thing to say is, if you are worried, maybe chat to the year head, you know, because sometimes year heads can look at and I think it's really, really difficult because of COVID, because the normal group work, you know, break into small teams or maybe work with it in pairs, that probably has been limited a little bit this year. But I think maybe chat to the school if you're really concerned. Siobhán, I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything there, Sinead.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other question was from a principal of a special school where a lot of the pupils have an ASD diagnosis and many have anxiety and emotional well-being difficulties. And she was wondering if you'd sometime be able to host a webinar for parents of children in special schools.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be no difficulty. That principal should have her email address, and if you want to pop us an email during the week, and we can chat to our manager Aoife about that. I'm sure we can absolutely look at that. And just for the record, that is a huge area that we see in the ISPCC is children on the spectrum who maybe are anxious and trying to get the right support for them.
Yeah, that was all the questions. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Sinead, you're going to, before we finish up tonight, I think we're going to do one last last piece.
Yes. So I need everyone here to get a pen and paper. And we're going to conclude tonight's webinar by asking participants here to set your own personal pledge, your personal commitment to your own well-being. Perhaps this is something you're already doing a little bit of. Maybe you go for a walk once a week, but you'd like to do a little bit more often. Or maybe it's something you used to do. Often I've worked with parents who've gone back to doing art, doing running, doing things that they used to do before the kids came along, and they're getting back to it now, and it really enhancing their well-being. So if you are interested in doing something positive for yourself to support your well-being, and if it's been years since you've done something, my advice would be to start small. So set yourself a realistic challenge, write it down and tell others around you. So tell your sister, your friends at work, go, look, I'm going to go for a walk 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And as I said earlier, there's 168 hours in a week, and 1 hour is less than 1%. And the benefits of spending that 1% on ourselves can reap rewards for us personally, but it's also a gift to our family, because I know, I'm just talking about myself personally, I'm a better person when I can get out for some fresh air or go for a run a couple of times a week. When I don't do those things, I can really feel the difference. So I suppose, you know, I've worked with one mum this year who started walking for the first time in years, in I think 16 years. She hasn't really had the time to do anything for herself. She started this year and it's been a game changer for her. I had another mum this year who decided she was going to get a takeaway coffee and drive to a local scenic spot that had a nice view, and she was going to try and do that once or twice a week. I've other people who just maybe trying to go for a coffee with a friend. So everyone will be different. Some people will want to see people, some people want to do something something sporty. Some people might want to do something creative. So you have to ask yourself what's going to work for you. And whatever your well-being goal is, try to stick with it for at least 28 days so that it becomes a habit. So we're going to get people now with their pen and paper to write down what your well-being goal is, and then answer the question, how would you feel if you were able to achieve this? If you were able to get out 3 times a week for a short walk, how would that feel for you? And then finally, what is going to help you reach your well-being goal? So is it putting a reminder on your phone? Is it telling your wife or your husband or your boss or your sister that you're going to do it? And look, if anyone wants to put in the chat function what their goal is, we will be absolutely delighted to hear from you if anyone wants to share that. Obviously, totally no pressure. But that's really it. We'd love to leave you on that. Just to take some time in the coming weeks, especially on the run up to Christmas. I think that parents give everything to everyone else, and sometimes they're the last. You know, I was working with one dad this week, and he said it's the first time since he's had his child that he ever realized that the importance of taking some time out for himself. And he was just telling me he's just much calmer and able to deal with the challenges and the ups and downs of parenting by taking that time out for himself. So thank you so much to everyone for coming tonight. We will be following up with an email, and please, you know, if you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you know, please follow us. And just remember, we're only a phone call away or an email away from our support line, and that's available to principals and teachers as well. Sometimes we get or youth workers, sometimes we get people contacting us. So it's not just for parents and carers. We're there for everyone in Ireland really who wants to chat about a child. So thanks so much to everyone, and take care.